Welcome to Tapped In. My name is David Figueroa-Martinez of DFM Coaching, and today we're covering Jiu-Jitsu rules that I often break. When you are a white belt and you're starting out, maybe even blue, we will tell you not to do a lot of things out of safety sometimes and out of safety for you due to your experience level. You will hear a lot of different rules. And I'll say, don't ever do this. Don't ever do that. Don't put your feet here. Don't put your hand here. And in some ways, because jiu-jitsu is so robust and there's a large landscape, the idea of limiting you keeps you safe until your awareness level for any given technique grows, and then you can adapt things differently. I will break quite a few of these rules for specific reasons, and as we go through them, we'll kind of discuss that. But when I tell students, don't do this, I will tell them the only reason I'm telling you that is because this may happen. Now, if you understand what might happen and you have enough awareness to it that you can negate it before it becomes a natural problem, then you can take advantage of what might occur. But because you don't have that depth, you're not understanding. Like, it's almost having like a newborn baby and they're barely walking, but then they decide that they want to reach for something that's kind of far away and their balance is off. So you're kind of watching them and making sure they don't fall a certain way and hurt themselves. That's part of, I think, why jiu-jitsu instructors will tell you, don't do these key things. As you get more experience and you get more time on the mat, you're going to break a lot of these rules and you're going to have fun doing it. Oftentimes they would tell us, don't turn your back. And oftentimes that is part of the idea that maybe you're exposing your back and having your back taken, or maybe they're thinking about it in a more self-defense or MMA related endeavor, and turning your back is never a good thing in a fight. And strategically, it doesn't make much sense sometimes. But if we're doing jiu-jitsu competition where someone's passing your guard and they're about to be awarded points, but instead you go to turtle, you negate those points, but you're exposing your back. That's where sometimes breaking that rule becomes a strategic decision, because you don't want to be under someone completely controlled. In the event that I do go to turtle in this sport and at the academy, I'm not getting punched in the back of the head, so I don't have to worry about that. So now it's more about negating the points that they were going to get, but maybe I'm really good at turtle, and maybe I can defend off turtle. I can fend off the hooks. They never take my back, and I'm waiting for an opening, and then I get on top. Those things are plausible, and they're genuine strategic. Marco at front desk, he has a turtle game where if you put your arms where you're supposed to, he starts to armbar and kimura you. It's not something I feel with most people. With him, great strategy. It's a great strategy because he is so offensive-minded from that position. But most people will tell you don't go off your back or don't turn your back. But there's a game there, and there's a thing that you can develop and you can get really good at and become more offensive-minded. You can grambly roll. There's a bunch of things you can do once you get to that position. But oftentimes we don't want you to get there so early without having the wherewithal to do effective things. So with a white belt, if they turn, I'm taking them back. With a brown or black belt, they turn, they're aware enough about the hooks coming in that they're tighter, that they're more experienced, or they're better at being more offensive-minded, that it becomes a whole nother threat assessment. And with Marco, for example, I don't want to play turtle with him. I try to pull him onto his side as much as possible, because anytime he goes to turtle, it becomes a problem. So those one thing where it's like, how do I adjust, and when I break this rule, how do I make it work in my favor? People will often tell you to stay tight. Pressure isn't always squeezing though. And there's a tightness sometimes where I have to hold your waist or hold you down, hold you in place with like hugging mechanics. And then there's a type of tightness, which is I'm using body pressure and weight and angles to get a really tight chest to chest or hip to hip or back, chest to back kind of positioning. And it's less about squeezing and it's more about weight and weight distribution and forcing you to have to deal with gravity. But there's times when I let up on that. For example, let's say I'm passing and I do Orianda or I do bullfighter pass. I think those are the same thing. But leg drag. And we go, your legs are off to the side and my chest and rib cage is now on top of your hip. You're on your side and I'm pinning you in place just with pressure. I could sit there all day and kind of just pin you. But there's going to be moments where it's going to make sense for me to alleviate some of the weight so that you think that you can turtle away. And then as you turtle away, I take the space back. We don't always have to be tight. We have to be tight when it benefits us, and then we have to be loose when it benefits us. There's another one where I'm in top of half, but I'm facing the hips, so I'm kind of in a reverse position. And generally speaking, you're supposed to be really tight because you don't want people to get the underhook. I have developed a game where I'll let you get the underhook. I will literally create a space between your rib cage and my armpit. I will sit up a little bit so that you think there's a little bit of a space there. And they'll start taking that. It looks almost like the mouse hole on the cartoons back in the day. And just enough space. They'll try to put their hand through, their arm through. And what I end up doing is I get a good hand grip and then I start going Kimuras. But again, that goes from you should always be tight to no, I understand the rules here and I'm going to break it because I'm going to set up a trap for this person who knows the rules and is trying to play by the rules, but it's going to benefit me in the long run. So there's going to be moments of that. There's going to be moments of you're going to be tight, then you're going to relent, and they're going to think they can escape, and then you're going to be tight again. You have to play with both. It is not always. And then on top of that, there's certain people who play a very loose game, and they like playing with distance and speed, and that's great when you're young. I'm telling you, when you get older, it's going to go back to the basics. Another one is don't cross your feet when someone has your back. I break this rule quite often. I have shorter legs, and I find that crossing my feet and pulling my heels in gives me better control of the hips when I have the back. Now, there are some people who will then figure for their legs to try to almost like a straight foot lock, but within the hips, and they'll start to create that fulcrum over your crossed ankles and get you to tap. It's very powerful if someone knows what they're doing. But after you get some awareness, you start to feel the shifts in the body and you understand when they're going to do it. And then you uncross and you cross again, uncross and cross again. It's not a bad habit to cross your feet. It's a bad habit if you're unaware of what might come next and you don't have the experience and the sensitivity to respond fast enough. When I'm late on this, I merely just push the head forward. When they cross their ankles over, or when they figure four over your crossed ankles, they have to push the hips in to create the fulcrum. If you can push their head forward, they're unable to bridge into you. So it kind of negates their attempt. So that's an option. But it is really more about understanding when to do it and when not to do it. I don't have an issue with white belts doing it. I think that they'll learn rather quickly once they get caught. And then they may not do it for a while. And then once they get sensitivity and experience, they start picking it up again as a toy or a tool for control. Again, I love crossing my ankles, pulling the heels in. I find that it gives me more control. I find that I don't have to work as hard with my legs. And I get to sit a little longer. I can't body triangle because I'm short-limbed, and the modification sometimes works on some people, and sometimes my legs are tired and I'd rather just cross. But again, I have to be really in tune. Some people will tell you not to pause in transitions. I will say the opposite. Again, if I'm passing, or I'm going to mount, or I'm going between submissions, these are all transitions, I will often pause because I want you to do something that will favor my advancement. And these are going to be things that you pick up probably later in jiu-jitsu. You're not going to pick that up early on. But like I might, let's say I get Kimura grip. I'm in north-south. I pause and I put my weight down. I shove my forearm across the body and I force them to work. They have to carry my weight. And then I pull, or I get a grip on something that I like. Let's say we're going cross collar and I'm at collar drag. I grab and I feint and I wait. And then I pull. And in that transition, the feint lulled them and then we can get a really good reaction. So sometimes pauses are great, especially when you're on top. Sometimes a pause is a great thing. Just long enough to make them aware of your weight, aware of the bad position they're in, and then taking advantage of what they give you next. Last one. People say position over submission. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. I like being in a position first. I like to dominate and cook you and then slowly get to what I want and then secure the submission. I love doing that to people. But sometimes you need to work a submission during transitions. Sometimes you need to work a submission during moments where they don't expect it. The submission's there. You may not have a solid position, but that's the creativity of the in-between stage that you need to take advantage of. There's times when someone's like doing a single leg takedown on me and I switch to Kimura. In between, I don't have the position here, but I get the Kimura grip and now I can create a position based on that. Sometimes people are coming up a certain way with maybe an underhook and you're really good at guillotines and darces. That's there too. You don't necessarily have a position, but sometimes you got to chase it. And that happens for all submissions. You have to have enough confidence in your game defensively that if you fail, you're not at a deficit. You can get out of whatever bad position you get in, and then you can cultivate those submissions through the in-between stage really well and really get people when they don't expect the submissions. Again, if you guys have any questions on any of this, please hit me up. DFM.2099 on Instagram and Threads. I'm hoping this helps. This is probably going to be a bonus episode. Just a quick thought on the process. Also, if you'd like to join my free school program, DFM Coaching BJJ, the link is in the show notes, or you can search it on school. Completely free, recorded technique, audio series, Q&As, anything you need. Until next time, thank you so much.